Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today I'm returning to Don't Look Back. So, Don't Look Back is a game by Blacksite Studios that I fell in love with last year. And I mean, I fell in love with this game. I will talk about this game any opportunity that I can. On the podcast, in real life, playing a game, it's got a mechanic that's similar. I'll probably mention it. It's absolutely amazing. One of the other things that I really liked about this game is some of the accessories that you can get. In the original version of the starter set, there was a really cool looking measuring gauge that you could buy that they took out to try to make the starter set more accessible, and because you didn't need the fancy one, you could have a more simple one. And the one that comes with it is a lot of fun, but I went and I brought the proper one because I really, really want it. So, all right. This is an MDF kit, and what you will notice, for those that are not aware, is that it is actually pre-painted. Now, first things first, it is obviously a very simple kit. Like, seriously, it's 3 pieces. However, it is actually more complicated than I was expecting it to be. I honestly thought, looking at the pictures on the website, that this was just a colour on there. I hadn't actually realised it was a separate piece. I mean, it's very obviously a separate piece now that I've seen it. So that is designed to come apart. This is all nice and smooth. We've got a piece here that needs to come out. Because yes, this is literally what it looks like. This is a knife that is a measuring gauge. So these are your inches. We will check those for accuracy in a moment. I do like the fact that they have worked in their studio logo onto it. I mean, obviously you want people to know. Obviously you want people to know that it's your design, so that makes sense. And yeah. So, reportedly, that's 4 inches, which means that should be 8. And it's pretty spot on to the money. And this is 2 inches. Pretty spot on to the money as well. This will be the same. The difference here, because these are all lined up, so that is 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, etc. This has a little bit of a curve in it, which does add a little bit. Nothing that's going to be hugely shocking. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you've got 12 inches. You've got a foot of measurement there that you could actually use, which is really cool. And it just feels so appropriate. Whenever you're going to build a kit like this, the first thing that you really do need to do is clean up the edges where the bits on the sprue still are, because where you've got pieces that come out of a sprue or were connected together, you'll always have these tabs you need to clean off. It's possible that you may not notice them, but you'll always have them there. Now, I'm using wood glue for this. By all means, you could use super glue or just regular PVA. Wood glue is just something that I had to hand. I probably could have used a little bit more glue, but I was trying to prevent it from squeezing out in places I wouldn't be able to access later on. The thing I did not do, and probably should have, is add a little bit of salt to stop it from slipping when I was putting everything together. At the end of the video, you'll see when I show you, mine did slip a little bit, but only very, very slightly. You do want to use multiple, or either that or just sit it down on something heavy. Sorry to interrupt the video, but I want to tell you about the competition that we're running through our Patreon. For every month of support you give our Patreon, from now until April next year, you will receive one entry into the competition that we're running to win a Shaltari fleet for Drop Fleet Commander. That includes a Shaltari Dreadnought, a Shaltari Starter Set, a Shaltari Frigates box, and a Shaltari Cruisers box. All of this will be sent to one winner. This winner will be drawn at random on our 4th anniversary, which is recorded at the beginning of April. For us to be allowed to send this to you, you need to fit 2 categories. You must be living in a country where it's legal for me to post you something from Australia. You also must be living in a country where it is legal to win competitions. If you do not live in a country that meets these criteria, then I do apologise. There's nothing that I'll be able to do, and I will be forced to redraw it. Please consider supporting us. We'd really appreciate it. All of this was purchased with my own money. No Patreon funds were used for this. None of this is sponsored. I purchased this personally. It was at this point that I decided that, hey, maybe it's time I should actually take things a step further with one of these videos and actually finally paint something on camera. Now, by all means, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I'm a professional painter. To some extent, that's exactly kind of what I'm trying to show, is that you don't need to be in order to get something good out of something like this. To some extent, the big thing with kits like this is trying to stay within the lines. Now, at the moment, I'm probably not using the right red, if I'm honest. I actually do go over this, which was always the intent, but the final look of this colour just really didn't look right for me. This is actually wine red. It's kind of like, it's almost a burgundy. It just wasn't really the right colour. My theory was that this was the base and then I was going to build up on it in certain areas. But it was just kind of the wrong shade entirely. So rather than just highlight up, I completely cover it in a completely new colour. It is an exercise of staying inside the lines with things like this. But in saying that, this is also supposed to be blood, so it's probably not the end of the day if you go outside of them. And so long as you're careful with how much you clean it up, you can always go back over this with a silver colour and hide the errors that you make. Most of the errors that I make are around the lines on this, in all honesty. You will actually see you can see them there. And when I come back here in a moment, there's a pretty bad one. And so here I am. I'm just kind of going through and highlighting everything up in that wine red. In all honesty, the AK Interactive 3rd Edition paints, and I know this is not the first time I've said this, but as far as traditional paints is concerned, they are by far my favourite brand right now. I spent quite a bit of time testing these. Not everything in the range, but a decent amount to try to get an idea of how well they worked. I've been very, very impressed. Even the yellows and the whites work really well, which, if you know anything about painting, those are always the trouble colours that you will have. In saying that, there is no perfect paints, and you should be testing different brands out for yourself. If you're someone that's still new to the hobby and trying to figure out what brands to buy, genuinely speaking, my recommendation is always to try different brands, whatever is available for you locally, because you will be happier mixing brands than you will be actually just sticking with one. This is matte red, which is a very odd name for a colour, I find, because all of these paints are matte, really. And it's matte as in matte and glossy. I think it's fairly safe to say that this is a much better colour for the blood. I mean, it's a much brighter red than it should be, but it's very clearly supposed to be that exaggerated blood red look like you get in a lot of cartoons, as opposed to what you would see in real life. I really like how these colours turn out. They look really nice. And they do it's very, very opaque, this paint. Or at least most of the colours are. So, like I said, it really is an exercise of just patience and trying not to rush things. Obviously, this is sped up. And it's just, me trying to get a decent result out of all of this, in all honesty. You will see shortly as I show off the finished result. The only other thing that you probably could do after this is, if you wanted to, you could very easily come back and do a splatter paint over the blade. You could even paint in an actual blood stain on it if you really wanted to. I even went as far as to paint the 2 and the 4 on the edge of the blade, just because I kind of felt like it looked weird without them painted as well, given that it is the same texture, or font rather. That's the final result so far. So what's my final thoughts on this? In all honesty, I'm already a very big fan of this brand, but realistically, this looks right. I mean, obviously, you're never going to cut anything with this. It's wood. Also, it's blunt. Well, you could sharpen it if you wanted to. I'm not recommending that you do, because you will just destroy it. In all honesty, this is incredible. It's a very simple concept, but that's not a bad thing. Not everything has to be over-designed. This looks like a knife. It looks like a kitchen knife, which is what it's supposed to look like. It looks like it's straight out of something from Halloween or Friday the 13th or any slasher film, which is exactly what it's aiming for. We did measure this up on camera. These are all accurate. I'm not surprised by this, but it is something that I wanted to check. It's probably not the most comfortable knife in the hand, but that doesn't really matter. It's not what it's for. But as far as effectiveness and immersion is concerned, I'm sorry, but you're not going to beat that. You're just not going to beat it. It's amazing. You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more games.